Great, so Adam, tell us a bit more about why The Independent is closing its print edition.
Well, I think if you address the wider economics of print newspapers, then it's fair to see why The Independent is probably the first national to close. It cost £1.60, maybe 20 years ago it had a circulation of around 500,000, maybe a bit less, but now it's reduced to around 70,000. The economics don't make it up. And when you've got events going on like Brexit, Boris announcing at 5 p.m, you can see why people look for their news on TV and online. They're not going necessarily to the print copies anymore.
And obviously the online site is staying. What do you think this news means for The Independent generally in terms of their journalists, how it's made up? How do you think things might change?
Well, I think there's still a lot in limbo in terms of job redundancies, who's going to stay and who's going to move on. There was lots of elision across, say, the business desk and the sports desk with likes of the Evening Standard. So there's going to be some uncertainty of who's going to be covering what. I think more generally, the messages from The Independent itself, it's business as usual, we're in the digital world, and perhaps this isn't news, it's just the first of these things to happen.
It's a point now, this has been talked about for a long time in terms of the demise of the print newspaper industry in the UK. What do you think this means for the future of the print industry? Do you think this is a sign that more will close?
Well, that's the thing. The Independent is probably the first significant national to close. However, if you look over the past couple of years, we've had the Reading Post has gone online. Some of the locals, instead of being daily, they've gone weekly. Most recently we saw FHM and Zoo. They no longer print anymore. So it's hardly new. I think it's just a case of people remember, they go to the supermarket, they go to the paper shop, and they don't see those titles on the shelf anymore. That's what the damage is, and that's what people are saying, and that's the challenge for the media industry.
So separately, The Independent announced the sale of I, the sister newspaper, and at the same time the Mirror have announced that they're going to launch their own version of that called New Day, or a competitor to I. What do you think that means for the lower end of the market, as it were?
Well, I think what's interesting, so Johnston Press, who own quite a lot across in terms of regional and local papers, they bought the I for £24 million. I think the circulation was very healthy, it's around 300,000, cost about 40-50p. What's interesting with New Day, this new paper launched by Mirror Group, which apparently only has 25 members of editorial staff, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. They're saying that this is a direct competitor towards the I. What I think is quite interesting is that Mirror circulation has been reduced significantly over probably even more so than many of the other papers over the past 10 to 20 years, and particularly if you think that Rebecca Brooks has come back to News UK, The Sun have got rid of their paywall, then that's a challenge both online and to the print version of the Mirror. So maybe they're just taking a step. They have said that it's going to be completely separate and different to the Mirror, but it'll be interesting to see. New paper is a new title on our shelves, so let's see what happens.
So obviously the business of this change is very interesting, and what it means for the future of the print media in the UK. What do you think it means from a wider PR perspective for people working in the PR industry?
Well, it's quite interesting. Over maybe 5 years or so, people have only come to appreciate the power of social media. So 10, 20 years ago, the way to address these things was press releases or meetings. So we've moved a hell of a long way. I think the closure of The Independent is quite significant because that was one of the major targets for a lot of clients, a lot of businesses. And now they're thinking, well, if it's not there necessarily in print form, how's the market changing? What are we meant to do? What's our approach? And it's actually from a PR's point of view, obviously we need to know who's writing for where and what's happening in the market, but also it's guiding clients to understand that actually, whereas there may have been value 5 years ago, what you want to be focusing on is this new blog, this new website, and actually targeting your own social media channels because you've got a big network. So it's actually looking at the wider picture and seeing how the media environment is evolving.
Thanks very much, Adam.